Now would you please welcome Ian, Molly Meldrum.
Okay, here I'm outside Mann's Chinese Theatre in Hollywood in Los Angeles. Well, after I left Bon Jovi last week in Indianapolis, I then went to New York and caught up with Billy Idol and his guitarist Steve Stevens. They're both frantically rehearsing at the moment in Sire Studios for their forthcoming world tour. Now, hopefully, they'll be down in Australia August or September of this year. Meanwhile, they've got their new single out called Don't Need a Gun from the Whiplash Smile album, and this is what Billy had to say about that particular song.
A song that's sort of anti-trite violence or stupidity is always worthwhile, and that's really what Don't Need a Gun's about. It's not so much just about guns, but it's more about just senseless violence. I mean, it was much greater for me to be in love with things than to hate things or want to destroy things. That in the end, it's better to, take things and build on them. And that's what I've been trying to do with music and stuff. I've got a love of things I can use in my life, whereas some other people might have to take those sort of awful means to get through what they want. But I just feel I'm lucky. I've got songs, I've got a way to get rid of my frustrations, but I can't ignore the fact that other people don't.
I think what Billy's trying to say in that song is really that it's, the power of love can be even stronger than the power of violence.
Okay, that was Billy and Steve Stevens, and don't miss out on their tour when they come down under, because I tell you what, it's going to be a great rock and roll event. I have no doubt about that. All right, then I went off to London after New York and caught up with Boom Crash Opera, the Australian lads who had two great hits last year, Great Wall and Hands Up. Well, they're over in London at the moment at Rack Studios recording their debut album. And I tell you what, I heard some tracks and they're going to sound fantastic. I have no doubt they're going to have a few more hits under their belt by the end of this year. While I was also in London, I caught up with Pete Burns from Dead or Alive, and he's got some very interesting things to say about the whole rock and roll industry, so watch out for those comments on Countdown over the next couple of weeks. Now, of course, the big news, the most exciting news, because they're one of my favourite groups, is that U2 have finally released their album, their long-awaited album called The Joshua Tree, and I think it is just absolutely, something else. But I'll do a review on that over the next couple of weeks. Finally, in London, I caught up with Boy George. Now, Boy George, in fact, also is at the same studios where Boom Crash Opera are recording, Rack Studios, and he's there with Stuart Levine, who's an excellent producer. He was, of course, the producer for Simply Red, and George is putting down some really hot tracks. But meanwhile, his single, which has actually crashed into the English charts at number 7 first weekend, Everything I Own, the old Bread classic, has made George a very happy person. So